Jack, thank you so much again for taking the time. We really appreciate you doing this. Maybe a great place to start. Would love an introduction. Maybe tell everyone who you are, a little bit about your company.
Thanks for having me here. I'm one of the co-founders of Quantified Health, and we build platforms to help Canadians get the care that they need across different care conditions. We're in the telemedicine space, and we're also, building the software, the operating system that's powering all these clinical interactions that we're having. And we have multiple brands. The main one that we've kind of built has been in the menopause and hormone therapy support space, modern menopause, to really help, women between the ages of 35 to 65 getting menopausal and perimenopausal symptoms, really get the treatment that they deserve, the highest quality possible with clinicians that care, that follow them up over, longitudinal time periods, and they really kind of get these face-to-face virtual visits, get personalized hormone therapy, blood work, any questions answered. So that's what we've been up to.
Very cool. Appreciate you sharing that. And what were you doing for banking and payments, corporate cards prior to using Venn?
Honestly, prior to Venn, I think a lot of the experience with all these banks has been honestly quite disastrous. I think kind of the status quo in Canada has never been great. I think, personal banking, I was with RBC all my life. I had some stuff with TD, CIBC. I've kind of been through all these different banks. I think TD has done, some good jobs at cross-border and some of that stuff, but really you kind of look at the day-to-day needs of like an entrepreneur. I think a lot of what we do is, I don't have time to really go to the branch and do a lot of these transactions. It's crazy to me that even just sending a wire transfer, you kind of need to be physically at a branch in so many of these banks. And so really, I think Venn has been a complete game changer in that sense, and that, you can kind of do pretty much everything that a bank should be doing, but in a much better interface, and really everything's kind of accessible via the online portal.
That's awesome, and appreciate that feedback for sure. What was the way that Venn got introduced to you? How did you hear about us?
I think multiple people told me that Venn was kind of the way to go. I knew about Sod as well through my mutual friend David, who, had good things to say. And so really, we were kind of looking at setting up banking after we got set up on TD, kind of going onto Venn to kind of really handle some of that, kind of wire transfer, international, FX, all of that stuff was a natural next step.
And you said prior to using Venn, you were going to the branch to send payments?
To me, that was kind of the most frustrating. You need to send a wire payment. There's no way to do it like on most of these interfaces. You really have to kind of go in person and kind of validate everything before, the banks will let you send a wire transfer.
Yeah, that's crazy. And, I'm sure being able to do that online with Venn has had an impact on the business. If you were to point out maybe another way that Venn's impacted the business, what do you think that would be?
FX fees. The fact that you guys, have conversion fees at rates much more reasonable than the big banks that are charging 2 to 3% each way. It's we do a lot of stuff in USD, pay a lot of these vendors in USD, and so kind of having being able to actually do that at reasonable rates that are as close to market as possible. It doesn't seem like much, but when you're kind of paying a lot of these employees, contractors, service providers, kind of in the tens of thousands, then all of a sudden those 3% really add up over time. That's been a huge game changer as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. And were you paying fees to actually send wire transfers at the bank prior to using Venn?
The fees were probably kind of the $20, $30. At that point, it's not even about the fee. It's more, really, you kind of think about the fact I need to physically go to the branch, kind of, get out of whatever flow of work I was doing. The opportunity cost of actually just kind of getting out of that zone, kind of going to the branch, waiting, in line, and kind of getting out. It can take up to an hour, right? And like that's even worse than the fees on top, and really the fees are just insult to injury there, right? So yeah, it's definitely been a game changer there.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's awesome to hear. And you mentioned the foreign exchange. You mentioned sending USD to pay suppliers. What features would you say are most important to you that Venn helps your business with today?
I think definitely those ones, right? Having good FX, having like a great portal where everything can kind of be done in unified platform. The fact that we can issue virtual cards on the fly as well, kind of control span that way. We have dedicated SaaS, cards for SaaS, dedicated cards for some of these employees, etc. Kind of just being able to kind of manage all of that stuff really into one place and not have to deal, with customer service on the phone or even worse in person. And at the same time, having kind of reasonable rates for everything. That's been super helpful for us.
That's great. And that kind of leads me to the next question, which is if you were to quantify how Venn has helped you, would you be able to put a dollar figure on it, or maybe a time?
Hard to put a dollar figure, but definitely in terms of time saved. I mean, I definitely would have, I've definitely saved, days of my life in terms of just being able to do a lot of these transactions that otherwise, I would have just had to kind of been waiting, for hours either on the phone or in person, right? So I mean that time saving has been definitely invaluable, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. And do you see your business continuing to use Venn as you scale?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at what these banks have to offer, and really, just something like as basic as we're a Canadian company and we have some of these U.S. agencies and some of these U.S. folks we got to pay, and they're going to charge you, like a 3% markup. I mean, that's like a non-starter to begin, and I obviously understand that for TD, for obviously for all these banks, that's a major revenue driver for them. But I mean, for us, obviously, this is a cost that we'd like to pass down, and so Van kind of, uniquely fulfills a lot of that stuff in a way that these banks never could. And so we definitely, will be using more and more of your platform as we grow and scale.
Yeah, and I think I know the answer to this question, but would you ever go back to the banks?
I mean, we do have traditional banking because, in some cases we do kind of want that presence as well. But do we want to kind of primarily bank with any of these banks on a day-to-day basis? And I think my answer is clearly no, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And and I think I can guess this one maybe too, but how would you rate the banks from a day-to-day banking perspective on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think a lot of what banks are doing, if you're kind of for the average Canadian, maybe the banking experience isn't actually that bad, but I think you kind of get into a lot of these business transactions, FX, wires, all of that stuff. And really, I think the moment you kind of really need customer support, you really need to be at the branch. I think a lot of that stuff, the traditional banking allows you to do is quite limited there. And so I think kind of for, our business use cases and personally, that experience has never been that great. Maybe like a 4 or 5 out of 10. I mean, really depends on kind of what your use cases. And again, they're not terrible and they've been around, for a reason. But really, I think Van kind of really uniquely has been designed, I guess, by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs in mind. And really kind of, I basically get to do everything that, I kind of need to bank for within a unified platform. And that just makes, everybody's lives so much easier.
That's great. And with that being said, what would your rating be of Venn from 1 to 10?
I think Van's definitely like a 9 plus, right? I'm for us. So yeah, super happy with this service, right? And I wish I had more businesses on board on Van and grow with you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's incredible. And Jack, this has been great. I have one final question for you, which is if you were to describe Venn in one word, what would that word be?
Delightful.
I love it. Love it. Jack, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Thank you for being such a great customer, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Of course. Have a good one.
Thank you.